Here comes my big angry rant. Well, a cynical one anyway. Okay, so viewers of this show might have noticed that earlier on in this series I did a lot more videos about how I perceived the characters, what they were like, their personalities. I cared a great deal about that, something that's been fading away in later dissected videos. Mostly because the last few years of Sonic media have been so shapeless, so meta, so random with the writing, seemingly throwing the characters in any random direction they want, that I kinda gave up on them. Because it's clear characters are just violently jammed into whatever position suits the story, the joke punchline, or in Force's case, a very broad interpretation of what the fans want, with little to no sense of flow, continuity, respect for the past, or anything. At most you get a quick, meaningless reference. I find it increasingly more difficult whenever I see a reference to the past to see if that's genuinely world building or just a joke that you're not supposed to take on face value. It's what happens when half the dialogue of the past decade we got was mostly just fourth wall jokes you're supposed to discard and not take on face value. But hey, most of the games in the past decade had an excuse. It's a spin-off, it's for kids, it's a meta celebration, it's a cell phone game, it's a fuck you. Sure, Sonic Mania completely fucks up the entire geography of the locations and doesn't seem to give a damn, but whatever, everything was a meaningless illusion anyway. It's just a Phantom Ruby doing a bunch of random stuff. So, never mind world building, here's just another grocery list of references in a meaningless void, just like every game in the past decade has been. Great, wonderful, go hide behind your little get out of jail free card then. Making everything a dream or illusion is indeed everyone's favorite storytelling device. Doesn't matter whether this was Taxman's plan or Sonic Team dumping this crap on them, by the way, I don't really care who's to blame, just that it's happening. But now, here is Sonic Forces, and finally, all the pieces are in the right place. Story is in central place, it actually takes place in Sonic's world again and not in another abstract, headache-inducing magic shapes in Spaceland. We get told the team has passion for the story. They listened to our complaints and made sure the Japanese are mostly in charge of the story this time, so directly connected to the levels that's going on. Fan favorites return. The director wants us to think why these characters are here and genuinely be invested in their fates and motivations. Characters seem to behave properly, at least on a superficial surface level. Sure, Pontaff is back, but they have improved the last few times and stick closer to the original tone. Hooray! All the planets have aligned. Everything a story-loving fan could possibly wish for is in place, minus Shiro Makawa returning. And then, it's still a mess, with characters magically morphing into entirely different positions or personalities, which could technically be possible. Technically, the events of Eggman taking over the world can be a good argument for why these changes eventually take place, but only if the writer actually gave a damn and actually let the characters transfer from point A to point B and not just violently shove them into new slots and expects us to magically go along with it. The character's history is still barely touched upon. The geography is a mess again. Green Hill Zone is an entire continent now instead of a part of an island. Whatever. It is an improvement of the last few games, but ironically the improvement only emphasizes the underlying issues I already have with the series. It's nitpicking, it's fan nonsense, only hardcore nerd fans like me care about this stuff. General audiences probably don't mind. Fine, whatever. I'm just saying, this whole situation has killed any possible investment I had left in genuinely caring about the characters in the world. Sonic Forces is the final nail in the coffin when it comes to me even having the remotest fuck to give about these characters. I'm officially completely apathetic toward them now. It doesn't bother me one bit if they get killed off or they marry or leave the series or any drastic change because it doesn't fucking matter. The cast is like Kenny at this point. Who gives a fuck if he's killed again? Although at least Kenny has a consistent personality. They'll be retconned and blindly thrown into a new direction in the next game anyway. There's no flow, no foundation, no respect, no grace, nothing. These stories are entirely made out of individual ideas and scenes that are cool in a vacuum, but have little to no lead up, no consequences or payoff to them. To Force's credit, they do have stuff like the Avatar getting the prototype Phantom Ruby and Eggman's playing with his son. The actual plot stuff is more or less intact and flowing and has a nice setup payoff element to them. So the plot is technically alright. It's mostly the characters themselves that bounce all over the place. If they're lucky. If they're unlucky, they just sit in the background and do nothing. It's no wonder I see more and more people ask for a reboot. Sonic Team to break it all apart and start over from the classics on, or the adventure games at the furthest. Personally, I don't really care either way if they do it or not. I mean, look at Sonic Boom. That's technically a reboot, in a way it starts from a clean slate and then salvages elements from the other Sonic series to repurpose them into their own universe. And hell, we barely go through one level of the prequel game and the entire cast plus Shadow and Mantle are already thrown on a big pile with no context or history or any explanations. Just bam, here's Shadow, everyone standing ovation. Woo! Yay! And then the game isn't really canon to the TV show anyway. Ed is replaced by another game, or not, or is, or not, or who cares? The showrunners don't care. Yeah. And if you don't want to count Sonic Boom for being made by a different team and having serious production problems, fine. Look at the main games. You got Sonic Lost World being entirely designed around the amazing Deadly Six, the big selling point of the game. And then they're thrown in with barely any meat to the bones. Great, you introduce them as being enslaved by Eggman, so I sympathize with them. Then Sonic starts bullying them, which is fine for half of them, but the other half decided they didn't really do anything to Sonic yet, so I sympathize with them even more. And then the Zeddy are free, and they forget about their own motivation, angry at Eggman, and follow up their own, only start attacking Sonic for no reason, and then they disappear out of the story with no payoff or send-off. Not to mention the whole they're the only living beings of this mysterious new world angle is ever completely wasted. So what the fuck kind of last impression am I supposed to leave with? I got nothing. They're just a collection of individual ideas in a vacuum. I don't even know if they're dead or alive at the end. But hey, here's Savak and Sonic Forces to... Oh, Illusion, never mind. Ah, poor Sonic fans who actually care about the Deadly Six and wanted to know about their fate. That's what you get when you still are invested in these characters. And we already went through how Infinite is just a pile of ideas that never really flow into each other or amount to anything. He's a cool mercenary, off screen. According to Amy, he's really tragic and sad because he doesn't get friendship or something. Rivalry with Shadow, a personal connection with the Avatar. All interesting angles, and they're all just blindly thrown at the audience with little to no structure or point to them. Well, to be fair, there's a nice arc. That is, disrespectful fear ends up motivating the person who defeats him later. That's nice. But then, of course, Sega was too scared that Sonic didn't do anything useful, so they made him kill Infinite, and he wasn't really set up in the whole fear storyline, so it's still kind of messy. Anyway, that's how they write and introduce new characters that are central to the entire game. They can't even get writing a simple villain right, so you expect them to be able to reboot the series and create a solid foundation for the future? Don't make me laugh. At this point, I expect any reboot to just be the characters blindly pinballing into a chaotic pile of ideas and disconnected chunks of old lore. What the series needed is a brain, a heart, a central J.K. Rowling or a Tolkien or a Roddenberry type person at the center of the series to steer the entire franchise, but instead it's clear Sonic is stuck in a giant tug-of-war battle between the several teams within Sega that are all panicking and can't make clean decisions. Even if a Pontiff or a Whitehead or a Shun Nakamura had a great idea and desire to make something good, it's clear Sega's in a complete panic about Sonic, and every project will turn into a shapeless puddle of what might have been good ideas once. I'm surprised Sonic Mania ended up being as good and focused as it was. Probably because of its low budget, most of Sonic teams left it alone and mostly let Taxman and his team do their thing. Possibly only the below-the-radar side games have any chance of survival. But whatever, that's just me. I don't really care anymore. Parodying it is the only thing I've left with the series. My ability to genuinely care about anyone is absolutely dried up now. Well, so, those were my darker, cynical thoughts for the people who thought I was way too happy and nice in the last video, so you're welcome.